Welcome to Breakpoint, the ServiceNow Developer Podcast.
Hello, ServiceNow admins, builders, developers, and curious individuals I say with the utmost love and respect. Welcome to, or welcome back to the Breakpoint Podcast, ServiceNow's developer podcast, where we bring you all the tools, tips, and tradecraft to accelerate your developer career. My name is Laura McManamon. I am your host for today, and luckily for y'all, I am joined by not one, but two phenomenal representatives from our ServiceNow team to talk about one of the hottest topics coming off of the Knowledge Conference, Build Agents. So please welcome Deepanshu and Patrick back to the podcast. Gentlemen, hello. How are y'all doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, we are thrilled to have you here. Patrick, you and, also Jay Couture have been kind of our frequent flyers recently on the podcast, but we have a new face. So let's start with Deepanshu. Let's do a quick round of introductions.
Yeah, sure. So I started my career as a developer back in the day. Then I moved into product management at Google. I've been working on developer tools since long time ago. Started my first PM on dev tools was Ads SDK. So I was helping developers monetize their applications. I then moved on to the Android team, was a PM on Android Studio, which Android developers globally use to build Android applications. I left Google to start my own company, spent almost 3 years before I took an exit there. It was an enterprise SaaS applications for CTOs to help them find bottlenecks and inefficiencies in developer processes to make them developers more productive. After that, spent some time doing PM work at this company called Replit, which is the fastest growing vibe coding tool out there. It was a pretty cool product. I was personally very excited about enterprise use cases, so I ended up at ServiceNow last year in June. So I'm completing my 1 year this month. Very excited to be here talking to you guys. But yeah, that's me.
Well, awesome. Well, we're so thrilled to have you on board. Obviously, specializing in developer efficiency and vibe coding. I think you have found the perfect place here on this new Build Agent aspect. So also, Patrick, give us a quick introduction for you as well to any new listeners.
Yeah, totally. So hi, my name is Patrick Wilson. I'm an engineering director here at ServiceNow. I've made a few appearances in the developer advocate cinematic universe, and I'm always excited to talk to you guys. Been at ServiceNow for a long time, 12 years. Spent all that time in engineering, mostly in platform. Spent the last couple of years working on the ServiceNow IDE, ServiceNow Fluent. And now my focus is bringing all this really awesome development in AI technology and AI developer tooling to ServiceNow developers. So that's what we're working on now. And Build Agent is kind of the perfect encapsulation of all of that. So really excited to talk about it.
Well, we're excited to hear about it. So if you didn't know, coming out of the Knowledge Conference, obviously AI was probably the hottest topic imaginable. Who is surprised there? But one of the most interesting topics coming out of it was kind of debuted in one of actually in a couple of the keynotes, but specifically in the CreatorCon keynote, which is the concept of Build Agents. So the first wave of AI products that ServiceNow produced, a lot of them are leaning into helping out the individual kind of fulfiller type of personas. The AI agents were specifically helping people execute on tasks. But what about the creation of things on the ServiceNow platform? We see Now Assist kind of leaning into those with Now Assist's ability to create apps, to create flows, but build agents are something else entirely. So let's start there with defining what a build agent is.
So what we're doing with Build Agent is, we're taking the full power of ServiceNow development platform, things you love as a developer creator, and making it part of the conversational experience. So you simply open ServiceNow IDE. That's one place where you can access Build Agent and start, asking and working on your developer task. As simple as, asking in natural language, and the Builder Agent will do the work for you and come back with the results. So that could mean creating an application, editing an existing application, debug my application, help me understand my application. So sky is the limit. That's what we're building, with Build Agent.
That's fantastic. So beforehand, a lot of the Now Assist developer tools were kind of locked into a specific area. You had to specifically pursue them, whether that was creating a form or creating a flow, an application in its entirety. But this seems a lot more open-ended to interpretation. And so I think that also matches developers' means of development a lot more realistically, right? You're not usually pursuing a very specific thing. You are pursuing a goal, and how you achieve that goal can come in a variety of forms. So it's helping you kind of in that manner, correct?
Yeah, I think what's pretty exciting about sort of this approach that we're taking with Build Agent is that we've had like AI assisted, like you said, like AI assisted creation tools and stuff for a while now, and they're super useful. They're really powerful.
Yeah.
But they're useful through the point of actually making the thing that you were trying to make, and then at that point, you're kind of left to your own devices, right? To like use our builder tools and everything to continue manipulating them. But we wanted to build an experience where that kind of AI assist sort of continued to carry you through the whole life cycle of building and maintaining an application, and that's sort of what we targeted with this sort of multi-turn agentic experience. And by multi-turn, we talk about like, when I'm working with an AI agent in the case of building an app or customizing an app or editing an app or whatever, there's a back and forth that I have with the agent, right? Like I asked for something, it does some things. I ask it, oh, okay, that looks pretty good. Let's evolve it now in this way, and so it does some more things. And maybe I say like, you know what? I don't really like the direction this is taking. Let's roll back to an earlier point and take another stab at kind of going down another path. And that back and forth, you get a lot of power as a developer out of that kind of a co-pilot sort of an experience, right? Like I'm in the driver's seat, but this AI agent is sitting next to me, helping me the whole way through. And that's the kind of experience that we wanted to build with Build Agent.
Yeah, it's like having, sorry, I was going to add one thing. It's like having an advanced developer who's like 20 years of experience sitting next to you, helping you develop things. It's exactly like what Patrick said.
Yeah, it's the ultimate rubber duck because it actually tells you things in response. It's not just sitting there as you spit nonsense at it. And I think that's probably the coolest part is that, as a developer myself, I've seen a lot of value even from that first wave of Now Assist tooling. But like you said as well, it's much more akin to the experience I have found when utilizing things like ChatGPT to like help me with an email. You write an email, it's really spicy, and you ask ChatGPT, hey, can you make this maybe a little less mean, a little more kind? It gives you a version. You go, well, I don't want to seem like a complete pushover. Maybe make it a bit more spicy. So there's the back and forth consideration, but from a development perspective. And so I think that is really the next wave of this, is that it's not just helping create something, but it's part of the entire development process. And that can even be taking steps backward as well. So tell me a bit more, I guess, as well, just to kind of clarify, because we got a lot of questions at Knowledge about this, is how build agents relate in their design or how they stand on the platform in contrast to things like the AI agents. Is it the same thing in just a different area? Do you access it in a similar place? I think that because it's brand spanking new, not a lot of people have used it yet. So how do you clearly communicate the differences between build agents and AI agents, for example?
Yeah, I can take that. So I think the first thing to call out about Build Agent specifically is that it's sort of an agent experience that's, at least in the ZS1 timeframe, going to be exclusive to the ServiceNow IDE, which I've been on this podcast a number of times to talk about too. And we're excited to see kind of continued adoption of the ServiceNow IDE and a kind of a coding agent similar to what you'd find in the really rich space of like developer tooling and AI developer tooling that's starting to evolve in the wider industry. Tools like Cursor and Windsurf and Claude Code and the list goes on. It's super well suited to like coding use cases, right? Of course. So we wanted to bring that experience first to the ServiceNow IDE. So the first question about like, where can I expect to use this thing? Immediately upon first release, you can expect to use it in the ServiceNow IDE as we continue to work to bring it to more places. And as to kind of the rest of the question, I think that like this agent shares a lot in common with like other AI agents, right? An agent is, and maybe I'll do a kind of a quick explainer of like what an agent is. If if you keep hearing about this thing AI agent, and it's like you're too afraid to ask what it means at this point because everyone's talking about it. An agent's really simple. It's using an LLM to do this kind of an iterative loop of prompt to tool calling to observing the result of a tool. And a tool could be write a file or run a build or inspect go get like the latest like errors from the system log or whatever. Those are all tool calls, which are fed back into the LLM for further action. And then an agent just keeps running through that loop. We have many AI agents on the ServiceNow platform, and Build Agent shares a lot in common with them. But of course, this one is tailored toward the developer experience, and you use it in the kind of places where you'd expect to be able to do development, like the ServiceNow IDE. That's the predominant difference.
Yeah, exactly. I think the other AI agent could be like a HR agent, help me onboard my new employee. And that's the agent taking care of all the new employee onboarding, provisioning, sending them a laptop, approving things for them. This is very much focused on developer ecosystem, helping developers develop on the platform. And, that's the major kind of segregation. And similarly, IT case resolution agent, very different.
And not just developers. I think one of the coolest things about this, and it's, a little bit of a bias that ServiceNow has leaned into the last, I would say 5 years, especially, is low code, right? Let's make everything a wizard experience. Let's make everything, box and package in a way that more people can call themselves realistically developers. So it's so fascinating to me that the first huge step into really agentified AI development is for pro coders. So that's so cool to me. And what a great incentive as well to really dive headfirst into the IDE is that they get to use this really awesome tool. So currently for the upcoming Zurich release, so as we are having this conversation today, Zurich, we come out of the frying pan into the fire, it feels like, with regards to knowledge, and then immediately kind of go into pre-release showtime. So tell me, what can pro coders expect capability-wise from the first wave of build agents?
Yeah, I can share that. So the first version of the build agent will be in ServiceNow IDE. There will be a chat panel where they can go and ask questions, create new applications, edit existing applications, debug an existing application, write ATF tests for your application, all with natural language. And it is a pro code developer tool, ServiceNow IDE, but technically you don't have to touch any code with Build Agent. It will write the code for you. It will run and test and verify the code for you. That's the beauty of LLMs creating code, because they can verify that creation with code, and they can compile the code, so they can fix it itself. And that's the loop we have built in. It creates code, it verifies the code, it finds some errors, and it fixes itself. So you don't have to touch the code at all. So technically, a low coder use it too if you want to, and that's what we're building for now. And it's very focused on custom applications to start with. So you can build custom applications, edit custom applications, and write ATF tests for that. And that's what we're kind of building in the MVP version.
And I think that's what's so exciting about targeting sort of this pro code experience first out of the gate with the AI agents, is that it's doing so much. Of course, ServiceNow is a low code company. And when I think low code, I think democratizing development, right? Making it easier for lots of people to be able to build software on our platform really easily. And Build Agent does that so well. It's perfectly in line with that kind of thesis, right? Is that it's taking even the most complex parts of building ServiceNow apps, even the parts that do involve scripting and writing JavaScript, and making it more, I think, approachable than ever to actually be able to build those things with this sort of AI experience copilot that's helping you figure out what kinds of artifacts do I need to build, or what kinds of ServiceNow objects do I need to make to accomplish this use case? How does a business rule work, and what kinds of APIs and things do I access within it? And AI, the Build Agent, it kind of helps you make all of those choices, and along the way is teaching you how to build apps on the ServiceNow platform. It's super exciting. It's taking even the high code, the very codey parts of building on the ServiceNow platform, and expanding kind of the spectrum of the types of folks that can get a lot of value out of it. And that's part of what's so exciting about this product.
That's something very eye-opening that I never really considered as a potential boon from AI. Because beforehand, like you said, we wanted to get as many people to be building things on our platform as possible. And the easiest way to do that was to bucketize and wizardify aspects of development on ServiceNow's platform. But moving forward, it almost is like this AI could be, it's almost like a language learning tool, right? So you can take someone that maybe isn't that proficient at development, you utilize a build agent to create a function or some aspect of the platform, but it's more akin to also teaching them what building that would even look like at all. And I think that was one of the limitations of the way that ServiceNow packaged simplified development was that it didn't provide a springing off point to become a pro coder. It just hid all of it away, and it was a self-limiting tool, but this is almost setting people up to even learn more and become more proficient the more they utilize it.
Yeah, it's super critical. It's the making development more accessible. It's kind of the future where the industry is heading to. When the first time, the way I think of it as when the first time internet came out, the number one use case that people were using it for was writing blogs. So users
Yeah.
actually got new medium to express themselves and share their opinions. And when mobile phones came in, the cameras came in, everyone became a photographer. They were getting more
Yeah.
creative and sharing creativity and capturing moments. And similarly, developer agent, builder agent right here, right now, can give people the power to develop anything they want, and they can unlock their creativity and develop on the platform. And we're just barely scratching the surface right now. It's very exciting times to be alive, actually.
And I'll say that, like, as useful as this product is, I think for maybe folks who are coming into ServiceNow app development for the first time or want to expand their skills, it's like just as useful for people who have been a part of this ecosystem for a long time. I've been at ServiceNow for 12 years. I know a lot about ServiceNow. And the build agent has taught me stuff that I have like forgotten how to do or never learned how to do in the first place. Or like, even if you are a power user, right? And you've been doing this for a long time, build agent still has a lot to offer. I think those folks too. Like the applicability of it is so wide.
Yeah, you
No
kind
kidding.
of level up. You're non-developer, you become a developer. You're a junior new developer, you become a mid-level developer. If you're a senior developer, you become an advanced developer. You do complex things, and that's kind of skill level up what it gives you.
And that's also reflective of one of the biggest complaints we hear about ServiceNow, which is actually a compliment in disguise, which is your platform has gotten so big, I can't master it anymore, right? We're making too much too quickly for people to stay abreast of literally every single portion, which is fair. We're a Fortune 500 company now. It's not going to be the same development cycle as it was 10 years ago, and that's a good thing. But so we can utilize AI to more fine tune our learning. So, okay, I can't learn everything, but for the things that I need to do, how can I learn them quicker and learn them more effectively? And AI is the quickest, it's the highway to doing that as efficiently as possible.
I have one cool anecdote I want to share just really quickly from a conversation that we had at Knowledge just a month ago. I won't say any names, but an individual came to our booth. We had this booth where we were showing off Build Agent, right? And like,
talk about the booth. It was a very cool booth too. It had a lot of cool people were loving it.
Yeah, and we basically had like at one point I think they just opened up a laptop and they're just like, just come type stuff into it and like see what you can do with Build Agent. And one individual, he was sharing that he had come to Knowledge because he wanted to learn something like very specific. He was a platform architect. He had a specific question in mind. I think it was about like how to integrate like Kafka streams or something into ServiceNow, something along those lines. And he was talking to a few people, and no one like quite knew the answer to his questions. Right? No one was quite the right person to help him out. So they direct him somewhere else, and he get directed somewhere else. Like, which is an experience I've had at many conferences in my life, right? And so he comes up to Build Agent. So he comes up to our Build Agent demo, and he's like, I'll try this. So he comes up and he types in his question into Build Agent, and he shares with us, this thing just answered in like 5 minutes a question I've been trying to get answered the whole time that I've been here. It's which is just like, that's what we're trying to do, right? That's like perfect encapsulation of the problem that we're trying to solve.
No kidding. That's a great story, man. That's perfect. So, wow. Okay. Well, that's not only phenomenal that they got so much value from that knowledge, but also what a nice verifying as like people that work on this product to see it work in such a niche way. You said like he's been ping ponged around the whole conference.
Yeah,
and for it to answer in seconds.
So deep, right? That like, for any given piece of it, there might be, not everybody knows every piece of it, right? And there are parts of the platform that relatively few people know. And but with these AI tools, we can bake so much information into them and index so much information, so much knowledge with this agent that it's feasible to have like the coworker that knows everything, right? Like,
no kidding. And for every release. That's the
Yep.
other thing we're ignoring too, is that ServiceNow does this every 6 months. So every 6 months, we can take our Delta exams and we can do as much as possible. But again, there's that, it starts that whole learning cycle over. So I can see this product as well, helping people get the most out of their release the second that it's available, because they'll probably be aware of tool sets that they are just barely getting comfortable with so far.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, I'd like to go a little bit into the history of the development of these products. Again, it's a very fascinating part of having gentlemen like yourself on this podcast, because, a lot of our users are curious, because I'll be honest with you, Build Agent was nothing that I had heard or saw in our backlog relatively recently. It's this beautiful new product that really came out of the woodwork. So how did this product come to be, and how did it come to be so amazingly quick? It has been remarkable how proficient it's become.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it looks like it's very new and recent, but we have kind of been investing in this area for a while. Our
True.
ServiceNow IDE launch, which is kind of powering our Fluent domain-specific language, and that's the whole
Mhm.
base of this agentic, build agent.
Mhm.
With Fluent, we can represent everything on our platform as code. So every metadata,
Yes.
table, flows, form, whatever you name it. And one thing our LLMs are really good at, the agents are really good at, is writing code, and we can
Mhm.
verify that code. And it was kind of all the pieces just came together when the reasoning models just got better recently. So with the reasoning models that we're using for our build agent, you get extra kind of reflection step at each step of the agent, and it fixes itself, and it reassesses what I'm doing, taking the right approach or not. So it just all these pieces, the industry advancement, our product investments, IDE, Fluent, they all came together at the right time that gave the birth to kind of, build agent we're launching now. That's how I see it personally. I'd love to hear Patrick's thought. I think he's been here for more than me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny that if you go back like 3 years and you look at um, like vision decks and documents and things like that, when we were first ideating on Fluent, our
Mhm.
DSL for describing metadata on the platform, when it was like in its super nascent stages, right? Like in those vision documents, one of the advantages of like why I do this is, well, LLMs are really good at producing text, and it would be really helpful, we think, at some point to have like the ability to represent anything on the ServiceNow platform as text in a way that's like statically analyzable and verifiable and all that stuff. And like this is before agents were a thing. Like we didn't really see
Oh
that.
yeah.
Like I'm not like, none of us are omniscient. We didn't necessarily realize like how good some of these like models were going to
But
get.
Yeah.
But even then it was clear that like there would be advantages to
of course.
investing in Fluent and to investing in the IDE. And then the thing that changed over the last 6 months maybe is really, really, really good reasoning models came out. Things like Claude 3.7 Sonnet, Gemini 2.5 Pro, like, GPT-o3, like these like incredibly powerful reasoning models that are capable of planning, that are capable of tool execution. And it made, you see it in the industry, right? Like pretty quickly, products like Cursor and Windsurf have gotten really powerful, really useful for folks, right? Like, and it seemed to happen almost overnight, right? But it's actually kind of been, at least for us, like this has been a long time in the making, and it's
Yeah.
exciting that like, this is the product that we would have dreamed of building 3 years ago, and now we're able to do it.
No wonder. I mean, that's really remarkable, because correct me if I'm wrong, the ID came out to the public only a year ago, correct?
Yeah, Xanadu.
It's having its 1 year birthday in the fall.
Yep.
So did you ever imagine that initial idea coming into fruition so quickly after the release of the IDE?
No, to be honest, no.
Not this quickly, I'd say. Like I think that like it was certainly something that we've been super interested in since we released the IDE, was like, how can we bring AI features to the IDE? I think
Yes.
the only piece of it that's catching me by surprise is like really how quickly we've been able to do it. Like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's funny we skipped a step two, actually, if you think about it. We have this now assist for code, autocomplete, prompt-based models on script
Yes.
editor. And then
Yes.
agentic development is an evolution of that. And
Mhm.
we didn't even do that for IDE. We just skipped that step and we moved directly to agentic stuff. That's a biggest shift
Yes.
in priority we had to make too, because industry is
Mhm.
moving so fast, and we want to match that speed and give our developers the latest and the greatest. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah,
Do,
like developers' expectations are changing all the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
right? Like, and they're changing so quickly. Like, um, and I see it as our job, like Deepanshu and I's
mhm.
job, is to help ServiceNow like keep up or lead even in a lot of the areas around like enterprise software development stuff. There are a lot of these areas where I think that not only can we like match what we're seeing in like the larger developer space, but
Mhm.
we can beat what's happening in the larger development space because we have this amazing competitive advantage, which is the ServiceNow platform and all of its maturity and all of its, 20 years of development have been happening on this platform. And, a lot of problems have been solved on this platform. We're able to kind of bring all of that together with Build Agent, which is just a huge advantage, I think, for us when it comes to a developer sitting down saying, I want to build an enterprise app for my organization.
Mhm.
What platform do I build it on? I think we're building a really compelling pitch that platform should be ServiceNow.
Well, it's a huge testament to you and your developer teams to not only be able to create this product so insanely quickly, but also to be humble enough to change around your priorities. Like sometimes, it's hard to expect like kill your darlings, especially. But like you said, we want to reflect the needs of our developers as much as possible, even if that means shifting around our priorities. So was there any priority that really came out of the word work that surprised you, that made you change things substantially?
I feel like I think it's the tech advancement. To be honest, that was a big shift for us. Like reasoning models we were talking about that came in the market
Yeah.
and it was so good, and
Yeah.
that changed a lot of things. And lucky for us, we work in an org that is very fast moving and very startup mindset, and very scrappy to get things going and doing POCs and showing it to people around and getting it out the market. And I think it's a combination of all of those things that helps you move things around, adjust things fast, and move fast. I'd say.
Deepanshu too is he would never say this, but Deepanshu too is crazy. He's like the most technical product manager I've ever met, and part of what gave us like the confidence to go and build this agent was Deepanshu. He spent like a weekend hacking on this thing, and he comes in one Monday and he's like, "Hey guys, I built this like AI agent extension in VS Code that's like calling the Claude 3.7 Sonnet and it's writing fluent code and stuff. Like, what do you guys think?" And we're like, "Oh my god, we need to build this like right now."
So it's because of your weekend hobby this all
Yeah, that's how I do on
exists.
weekends. I hack things. Yeah, yeah. No, it was a
Wow.
team. The team's working really hard. Like they're working day and night on weekends, holidays to get this out. So it's a lot of work put in by the by the development team, I'd say, to get this
Yes.
out the door.
Yeah, we have
Wow.
an amazing team that's been working on this, who's been working really, really hard to bring this to customers as quickly as we can. So,
Yeah.
and it's like without the team, obviously, this wouldn't have been possible, and it wouldn't have been possible on the timeline that we're talking about right now, for
No.
sure.
I'm curious, how large of a development team are you working with?
20 engineers
Wow.
probably.
Yeah.
That's
And,
remarkable.
and it depends on like you could broaden it and say like, well, like in a way, like the Fluent team is kind of like
True.
participating in this. In a
True.
way, the IDE team is participating in this. Like, it's very much a like, and then we have many other teams inside of ServiceNow who are helping us with like all the core plumbing and infrastructure and actually being able to call out to models in a way that is like safe
Yeah.
and scalable for our customers. So like, it's the immediate team is not huge, but we're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants here, right? So
Yeah.
in a way, it's thousands of people have come together to make this happen. But yeah,
Well, the synergy is reflected in the product itself because like I said, seeing it acknowledged and getting able to evangelize for it on the CreatorCon keynote stage it meant a lot because I mean I remember back when I started development on ServiceNow's platform, and you see the origin, like you said, of the value of being able to codify or write out any aspect of our platform has kind of been there since day one because everything can be exported in an XML file. So obviously those are a much, much more rudimentary version, but there is that indicator of value of like, no matter how complicated something can be, there is value in being able to just export it as text.
Mhm.
And so seeing where that started 20 years ago now and where that mentality has taken development is just unbelievable. It's really unbelievable to see. So I'm really, really, really fascinated to see what developers are going to do with it now that it's out. So that's the other thing I wanted to pick your brains of. how can developers, the lucky ones that get their hands on this early, especially, how can they realistically start integrating this into their developer process? Like, what does their day in the life look like now that they have basically a fleet of, other developers underneath them, but built into the platform?
Yeah, I think like any other Now Assist product. This is a Now Assist for Code product. This is where you
Mhm,
get it from the store. You install this Now
mhm.
Assist for Code application, and then you open Now Assist. You get the creator role, and then you open ServiceNow IDE and start using it. It's that simple. And we're trying to remove a little bit more friction there with Now Assist and Assist. You have to get roles. You have to get. It's all work in progress, but that's still the same. And you open ServiceNow IDE, open the chat panel, and start using it. And the biggest thing you could do is ask questions about your existing application, build a custom small application, play with it. We saw a lot of use cases from people at the floor in knowledge, building hundreds of application, Pokemon card collection game. Just play around and do things you want to do, and the sky's the limit. Like I say, and that's all I think is one way to start using it. Just ask questions about your existing applications, and edit.
Yeah.
Helping refactor existing applications. I like it. I like it. If anything, too, as someone that used to work on our sales team, and so therefore I was talking with creator workflows customers daily, I don't want to hear nothing about y'all not having ATF tests anymore. That was like the cross I was dying on. I would go into these companies, these multi-billion-dollar companies, and they wouldn't have bunk for ATF tests. And I would get so mad. I'm like, guys, you have like hundreds of developers. You're building amazing things, and your testing cycles take you 6 months because you don't have any automatic tests. So now that excuse is out the window, and I'm thrilled to hear it.
Totally.
Yeah, we definitely want to make it easier for you to write ETF tests. That's for sure. That's like a big part of kind of the value proposition of Build Agent. And it also feeds back into, I'll just say, like, it feeds back into the effectiveness of Build Agent too, because it enables this loop that the agent can go into where
Yeah.
I ask it, hey, add a feature that XYZs or something, right? And it builds the feature, and then it'll build an ATF test, and then and this is something we're working on. It'll run the ATF test. It'll get the results of the ATF test that it ran, feed that back into the agent because agents make mistakes, right? AI makes mistakes.
Of course.
You see it.
Yeah.
You see a little disclaimer at the bottom of every AI product you've ever used. Hey, validate the outputs. This is AI. It might hallucinate.
Yeah.
But it actually runs the real tests and then takes the results, feeds them back in, and then uses that information to fix itself, to self-heal. And then you get this like really awesome loop where like you're building ATF tests, which protect you into the future, and they accelerate your development right now. Because the slowest part of doing this test-driven development stuff is having to sit there writing tests. Everyone hates sitting and writing tests.
Of course. You're like, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore.
It's
I don't.
boring.
I think
Yeah, I
Phil.
want to build. I don't want to test. I want to build, and Build Agent can do the testing part for you. So, it really, really cool. I think it opens up a lot of, I think, really interesting workflows.
And going back to making development accessible, with this kind of testing loop that Patrick just defined, you don't have to understand or touch code. It's fixing
Yeah.
itself. That's the whole kind of holy grail idea, right? It writes
Yeah.
code, it tests itself and fixes itself and self-heals, and you just sit there and just direct it. And that's the going back to the vibe coding kind of new thing in the market. You just work with your vibes and it will do it
Yes.
for you. And that's the fun part and exciting part.
We keep mentioning that. I just realized, I apologize, we have not defined vibe coding. So before we move forward, it is kind of like a newer meme phrase. What is the definition of quote unquote vibe coding?
I don't know. I could give my definition. I think everyone probably have their own slight version, I'd say. For me, I think it's more like I am building an application off my vibes. I'm not touching the code. I'm just telling, build me a list of item cards for my to-do task tracker app. Oh, it did
Mhm.
something, showed me something, and I was like, maybe move that thing down a little bit more and move that a little bit in the corner, and it will do it for me and come back with the output. And that's kind of I see it, vibe coding workflow. And we're trying to build that in Build Agent. Actually, this is the whole idea we're going with Build Agent. You can build full stack applications, including the front end of the app. So yeah, that's how I see it. I don't know, Patrick, maybe I don't know, has a different definition or not.
Our colleague Jay Couture has a term that he likes to use, conversational coding, which is
Yes.
it's like a slightly different spin on like vibe coding, right? But I mean, that's sort of exactly it. Like vibe coding, even as a term, is very vibey. I think it came out of like an Andre Carpenthy tweet from like a few months ago or something, right? Of like, hey, I'm just sitting here and I'm just like typing like random prompts and stuff into this agent, and it's just building it out for me, and I'm not thinking very hard about any of it, and I'm just looking at what it's doing. I'm not looking at the code, and it's like the purest distillation of like agent first coding that exists, right? And
Yes.
you know, it's a powerful way of building software, I think, you know, and that kind of conversation, like multi-turn experience of like, do this thing, okay, now I get to look at it, okay, now do this other thing, okay, now I get to look at it, is like it's a very fun way to develop. I'll say it's fun to build stuff that way.
Yeah, because usually when you are considering building anything, right? There's always a spitballing phrase of like, what should a phase? Excuse me, spitballing phase. But usually that doesn't result in the construction of anything. Usually that's like, maybe our app should do this, maybe our app should do that, and then once all that conversation is ended, you start building. This essentially moves that all up and says, all right, what does this look like? And it builds it. You know, my colleague Earl, he actually just did a short series about vibe coding. So I will, if you're watching this on YouTube, I will link that in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. I always say left, which is not correct. Upper right-hand corner of the screen. If you're interested in learning more about vibe coding on our ServiceNow platform as well. Now, gentlemen, this kind of seems like a mean question to ask, considering that it's just coming out now. But what's next for I always feel bad asking that, because we usually invite y'all on the podcast when you've just done a huge, massive release. You've done all this work. So it seems a bit mean for me to be like, yeah, that was great. What's coming up next? But people always want to know. So what is in the pipeline for Build Agent's future?
I think well, we are moving fast, so it's coming all pretty soon. There's no commitment on the timeline and date, but the plan is to embed this build agent vertically and horizontally. What I mean by that, vertically, let's focus on the vertical part. Developer processes also include testing, deployment, upgrades, and they have their own kind of processes inside testing. They have to write a test, run a test, fix a test, troubleshoot the test failure. So we're going to make this build agent make an embedded vertically with different workflows, like our testing ATF team, our deployment team, our upgrades team. But that's going vertical. And on the horizontal side, we're trying to also embed a build agent into other builders studios we have on the platform, like ServiceNow Studio, probably. So in the end, like we were talking about, doesn't matter if it's code, we can abstract it away and agent can figure itself out. So that's what's happening, coming up in the pipeline, vertical integration, embedding, and the horizontal one. And I think the most exciting one for me personally, I think a lot about, what's the future of the applications and apps, how are apps going to move forward and become into something new. And right now, you write an app, you write a UI, table, form, but in the future, this app layer will probably collapse into agents. So at the end of the day, the job to be done for a developer is to automate a business process. They do it via custom app today, but in the future, that might be an agent. So there might be a combination of agent plus application. So this app will change, the developer tools will change. So to help you build a custom application with an inbuilt agent or just an agent. So we're going in that direction to help you build the future of applications. And build agent is actually kind of, we're building it in a way so it's compatible with the future app development needs of developers. I'll say that much, but it's all coming in the very, very near future, I'd say.
Now, we've gotten to the ending portion of our podcast today, so I always like to give people a next step. Obviously, we've been listening to this awesome conversation. They've gotten all jazzed up about build agents and AI and development in the future on the ServiceNow AI platform. I have to correct myself. I always just say platform. It's the AI platform now, excuse me. But what type of resources can they leverage right now to learn more about these concepts? And they could be build agent specific. They could be just ServiceNow AI platform specific. Do you have any recommendations?
I'd say, so because build agent coming in C is part of ServiceNow IDE, so I'd recommend look at the IDE documentation, Fluent documentation. We have a learning course too on IDE and Fluent together. I think it will give them a good basic kind of introduction to this kind of tool, and then build agent can help them, get 10x faster in their development tasks and jobs. So we are adding documentation. Look out for that with the release coming in for build agent. But I'd say meanwhile, right now, IDE and Fluent, that's where it belongs.
Is that course available on ServiceNow University?
That is correct. Yeah, it is. I'll share the link with you too on the comments.
Perfect. That'll be down in the description. And also, again, if you're watching YouTube, upper right-hand corner. Patrick, any specific recommendations for people to follow up on?
I think just come and find us at the various big events and customer meetings and stuff that we do.
Hunt you down, per se.
Yeah. Either me or one of my or one of our kind of colleagues to get a demo of Build Agent and take it for a test run. I think and we definitely want to hear from you too. If you do come to any of the the forums or anything like that, we definitely want to show you what we're cooking and give you a chance to play with it in a hands-on way.
Totally.
Yes. So if you are not familiar with what Patrick is talking about, obviously we have our big knowledge conference once a year. Last 5 or whatever years it's been Las Vegas, but obviously not everyone in the world can attend that. But luckily, there are free local conferences happening starting in the summer, as early as some of them, mostly in the fall as well. And so those will not be as big as knowledge, like they won't be a week long, but they will all have curriculum to attend. They will all have, I think for the most part, at least some form of keynote to attend. But more importantly, they will have a lot of the exhibits that we showcased at Knowledge. I will say we don't know specifically which ones, but I think it would be foolish to assume that the AI technology that we heavily advertised at Knowledge wouldn't also have a big presence at the World Forum. So if you're looking for that, I will provide the link down there as well. But off the top of my head, we have World Forums. Forgive me if I miss any, but this is my best stake at this. We have ones in Sydney, Amsterdam, Munich, Paris, Tokyo, Toronto or Vancouver. I'll correct that if I'm wrong. It's one of those two. Chicago. Am I missing any, gentlemen? London.
How do I get on this circuit? I want to hit all of it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that the developer advocates, I can't publicize which ones we will be attending, but the developer advocacy team will be heavily involved in the World Forums this year. So if you have any questions, hunt down these gentlemen, hunt down people on my team. Quick side note, at Knowledge, we tried our hands at doing something we had never tried before, which was like a micro lab on the expo hall floor. It was called in this case, it was for an AI agent. It was called Build an AI Agent. And what you could do is you could get in line. There was a little tutorial video that was showcased with some of our product representatives. And then you were given the opportunity to do a 30-minute lab versus like the 90+ minute labs that we typically host. And then you could go on with your day. We thought this would be popular. And so we reserved, I think, let's say 300 or 400 instances for the week of Knowledge. We ripped through those in the first morning of the first day.
Wow.
So I think that ServiceNow has heard our community loud and clear that AI agents in general are something people are very interested in. And so again, I can't confirm specifically what will be at the World Forums, but I think that's a good hint. There might be something similar. So if you're wanting to get your hands on this, that is a great place to do so. And if you can't come and you are still interested in possibly, showcasing to your company that this is a worthy investment, do you have any advice for people kind of trying to convince their leadership that agentic AI or specifically for development is a tool that will revolutionize their company?
I think I'd say biggest one is time savings and dev productivity. It's the biggest thing,
Yep.
You can reduce your dev backlog way faster with Dev Agent. You can write things in minutes, not weeks and months.
Yeah.
And another one would be, I think, onboarding new developers. So if you're growing your developer team
Ooh.
as a platform owner or analyst, you can get them onboarded on your custom instance, custom application way faster using Dev Agent. So these two things, I personally think it's a pretty good value proposition to talk to your manager or platform owner to let you try this.
This has brought us to the end of today's Breakpoint episode. Gentlemen, where can they find you if they have any questions, any comments, if they want to, pick your brain about Build Agent? Is there a specific place that you'd like them to reach out to y'all?
Okay, so they can find us on LinkedIn. Our email address, first name, last name @servicenow.com is pretty straightforward. And we also have community forums for IDE and Fluent. So that's another avenue because technically it's all our same teams. So we can help them there too and unblock their, have them answer some of their questions.
Yeah, and please don't hesitate to reach out. Like, I love hearing from customers. I'm sure Deepanshu does too. A LinkedIn message or something, and then we get you kind of connected with the right folks from there. We do that sort of thing all the time. Would absolutely love to hear from anyone who is interested in Build Agent, has used Build Agent, has used Fluent, has used the IDE, whatever. We want to hear about it. So please don't be a stranger. We want to hear from you.
That's the other thing too. I always like to encourage people to do this, especially for this newest technology that, is not necessarily on everyone's plate. If you have access to Build Agent, make content about it. I am always fascinated, and honestly, customers much more interested in what other customers have to say about our products than anything that we can yap about. So if you have access to Build Agent, make a video, write a blog about your experience, because if anything, like Patrick said, our team is always listening. We're always constantly striving to make these products better. One thing that I've admired about ServiceNow ever since I joined is that despite its growth, it has maintained, like Deepanshu said, that scrappiness that is usually present in places like startups. Now, obviously, we're a lot bigger now, but it's still the element of humility is present, where we're constantly wanting to make these products the best for you. And so, I highly encourage you, make content about your experience using Build Agent. You never know who's watching. That could be someone that is just getting the product and also needs some help, or it could be the people that built it and want to make it better. So, any other final words of wisdom?
Now we're really excited. It's coming out soon in Z, and watch out for our Creator Toolbox demo, where we'll do a deep dive on the Build Agent with you all.
Now, obviously, an auditory podcast is phenomenal for learning about the history and what things are and kind of dissecting where it's going. But I know a lot of y'all want to see this. So we are going to be doing a Creator Toolbox episode a little bit closer to the release. So be sure to follow us here on this YouTube channel, which is the ServiceNow Dev Program YouTube channel, if you're listening on one of our podcasting providers. If not, thank you all so much for joining us here today. This was an amazing conversation, and thank you, wonderful listener, for joining us as well. Don't forget to check out the other ServiceNow podcasts. You can find them at servicenow.com/community under the events menu. Subscribe to this podcast either here on YouTube or on any place that podcasts can be found to have it just automatically pushed to your subscriber box. Breakpoint is brought to you by ServiceNow with executive producer me, Laura McManamon, at the helm. To find out more about the ServiceNow Developer Program in general, head to developer.servicenow.com. And again, thank you so much. Stay hungry, stay humble, and we'll see y'all in the next episode. Bye!
Please let us know what you think about this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more great information on ServiceNow development, check out the ServiceNow Developer Portal at developer.servicenow.com. Thanks for listening.